Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Apologies for that technical hitch. We are back online. So, shalom. And I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. It's Monday, the 10th of June, day 248 of the October 7th war. 8 months since the Hamas army of terror invaded our country and carried out their atrocities. Israel's objectives for this war are the destruction of Hamas's military and governing capabilities, the freeing of all of our 120 hostages, 43 are unfortunately no longer alive, and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. The precise framework proposed by Israel during the negotiations maintain these principles while establishing conditions for transition between the stages. All of our objectives are within reach. And of course, this war could end this very afternoon if Hamas lay down their arms and release all of our hostages. So after this weekend's dramatic and breathtaking events, I want to start by paying particular tribute to Israel Police Yamam Squad Commander, Chief Inspector Arnon Zamora. Arnon was 36 and from Mevaseret Zion near Jerusalem. He was a devoted husband, a father, and a father of two. He will be forever known as a hero of Israel. He was shot and critically injured by Hamas terrorists guarding 3 of our 4 hostages rescued on Shabbat, on Saturday. At the initiative of the Prime Minister, the government approved renaming of the hostage rescue operation to Operation Arnon. The Prime Minister said, quote, "Similar to the Rabin government's support for the proposal to name the operation to free the hostages at Entebbe, Operation Yonatan, after the commander of the assault force who fell in the battle, I am certain the government will unanimously support the proposal to name the operation to free the hostages in Gaza, Operation Arnon, after the commander of the assault force who fell in battle, hero of Israel, Arnon Zamora." End quote. It was indeed past. May his memory be a blessing forever. Next, the IDF has investigated the issue of Abdallah al-Jamal, a Hamas operative, in his own family home in Nuseirat. He held our hostages, Almog Meir Yan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv, captive. Al-Jamal also was listed as a journalist on the Al Jazeera website. You know, Israel faced a lot of flack for kicking Al Jazeera out of this country, but no press vest will cleanse the crime he committed. And to Al Jazeera we say, what on earth is this terrorist doing on your website? Now, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We always say our fight is with the genocidal murderers of Hamas and not with ordinary Gazans. But as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said this morning, we also know that many Gazan civilians participated in killing, in raping, and kidnapping Israelis on October 7th. It's also been reported that Gazan civilians are paid by Hamas to hold hostages captive in their homes. Look, Hamas is intentionally involving the civilian population of Gaza in its war crimes, and we would be extremely happy to be corrected, but we have yet to see anyone in the world condemn Gazan support for these Hamas atrocities. Now to the north of Israel, where yesterday, Sunday, terrorists fired an anti-aircraft missiles towards IDF fighter jets above Lebanon. That terror cell was eliminated near Tyre. Our fighter jets are striking Hezbollah in Shiba, in Etarun, Markaba, Hula, and At-Tiri. Now an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. Yesterday, 167 humanitarian aid trucks went into Gaza. A truck convoy entered via Gate 96 directly to northern Gaza. 8 tankers of fuel and 4 tankers of cooking gas were transferred to Gaza. Close to 4 tons of food aid were airdropped over Gaza. And our daily reminder that the contents of over 900 aid trucks, that's a lot of aid, 900 aid trucks currently await being picked up on the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom. Will someone from the United Nations or any of the aid agencies please pick it up and distribute it? We also announced the establishment of the 11th field hospital in Gaza to provide aid to Gazans. In cooperation with the Rama organization, IDF and COGAT, the field hospital compound has recently begun operating in the Al-Mawasi area within the humanitarian safer zone in Khan Yunis. This hospital, the 7th to be established in Al-Mawasi, will be operated by the Red Crescent and is expected to include 40 beds, 3 operating rooms and an intensive care unit. Also, 88% of all coordination requests on distribution are approved. The daily humanitarian distribution pause takes place as usual between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day, this time in the Al-Batishi neighborhood in Khan Yunis, to enable the movement of humanitarian aid. So, since the beginning of this war, more than 34,000 trucks have been delivered into Gaza. That's more than 658,000 tons of aid, more than enough food for everyone in Gaza, which have gone in. More food and aid enters Gaza every single day, 80% more food compared to what was entering Gaza prior to October the 7th. So that's the end of our briefing today. I'll now happily take your questions, which you should put in the chat with your news outlet. Thank you very much. First question, please.
First question is from Dan Williams from Reuters. Will Ben Gvir and or Smotrich be admitted to the war cabinet?
Thank you for that question, Dan. I haven't got anything to add to that. The decisions which the Prime Minister will be taking over the next number of days will be announced in the usual way. Next question.
Second question from Dan Williams. Can you confirm or deny that the U.S. is looking into making a direct deal to free American hostages from Gaza?
Thank you for that question, Dan. We have called on all countries to put as much pressure on Hamas as they possibly can to release the hostages, whether they have citizens, dual Israeli citizens, or their citizens in Hamas captivity. We're calling on all countries to do whatever they can to get hostages out. I have seen those reports to which you refer, and we are encouraging all countries to put maximum pressure on Hamas to get hostages out of their grips. Next question, please.
Question from Mark Anderson, AFP. What is your response to criticism that Israel violated its legal duty to protect civilians by carrying out Saturday's hostage rescue operation during the day, when more people were in the Nuseirat market area?
Thank you for that question, Mark. I think it's the ultimate chutzpah. You know what that word chutzpah means. It's the ultimate cheek for Hamas themselves to steal our people, hide them in crowded civilian areas, inside civilian homes, inside families where they've been put to work from the latest reports from the current release hostages, to put them in those apartments in crowded civilian areas and then chastise Israel for doing its utmost to release our hostages. I'm sorry, you do not get to steal our people, hide them in crowded civilian areas, and then complain about civilian casualties. Israel will always do its utmost to protect civilians from any harm in this war. Our battle is, of course, with Hamas rather than with Gazan civilians. But Hamas should be under no illusion, and everyone listening around the world should be under no illusion that hiding our people in civilian areas, in crowded areas, will not stop us. And Hamas hiding in UNRWA facilities, it will not stop us. We'll always, first and foremost, try and limit any damage to civilians. Every civilian casualty is a tragedy, but Hamas should be under notice. They know this by now. It will not stop Israel either rescuing its hostages or going after this Hamas genocidal enemy. It's one of our war aims to destroy Hamas, and every single day we're going after them, and we are destroying this genocidal, murderous organization, and we are bringing our people home at the same time. This attempt by Hamas to try and regain the narrative almost immediately, you saw this on Saturday, almost immediately, as soon as the news broke that we had in this phenomenally brave, innovative, thinking outside the box Israeli military operation, in the same lines, within the same groove as the Entebbe rescue from the 1970s. Immediately as this story broke, the Hamas PR machine immediately jumped into action and started talking about hundreds of civilian casualties. Our forces were fired on by rocket-propelled grenades, by heavy machine guns, by AK-47s, with grenades, with very heavy firing. We, of course, do not discount the possibility, the extremely likely possibility, that where there were civilian casualties during this rescue, that they were more than likely happened from Hamas as well. But everyone should understand that this method of which Hamas fights, it's not going to save them. It's not going to allow Hamas to keep hold of our hostages. We are going for Hamas. We'll always do our utmost to protect civilians, but we're going for this genocidal terrorist organization. We're on the front line of this terror. We're going for them. We're destroying them here. If we don't destroy them here, God forbid, then they'll be coming to a town or city or capital city near you very, very soon. We realize what we're doing. We're not just fighting for Israel, we're fighting for civilization. That is not a cliche, that is reality. Next question, please.
Question from Joel Polak, Breitbart News. Congrats on the successful hostage rescue mission. First question is, regarding the reports that the U.S. is seeking a side deal with Hamas over 5 American hostages, will it complicate Israel's negotiation effort?
Thank you for that question, Joel. As I mentioned before, Israel has encouraged all countries, whether they have hostages, their nationals within the grips of Hamas, in Hamas captivity, or whether they don't. We've encouraged all countries to put maximum pressure on Hamas to get their people, to get our people, all the hostages, 120 which remain, 43 have unfortunately already lost their lives at the hands of Hamas. We're encouraging all countries to do whatever they can to bring their people, to bring our people home. It is a daily war crime. What they're doing. It's every moment that our hostages are in custody, it's a terrible humanitarian war crime. But we will, it's one of our stated war aims to get our people back, and we will bring them back. The mums, the dads, the Holocaust survivors, the children, whether they are alive or unfortunately have been killed by Hamas, to afford them the decency, a decent burial or here in Israel. We are going to retrieve all of our hostages. Next question, please.
Second question from Joe Polak. Was the departure of Benny Gantz timed to coincide with Blinken's visit, and will the two be meeting?
Thank you for that question, Joel. That sounds like a question for Benny Gantz, or even with the Secretary of State Blinken. I haven't got anything more to add. As a reminder, the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister over a coalition of 64 Knesset members, which is, in Israeli terms, a stable coalition. He has a majority, and this government is focused on its three war aims: to bring home our hostages, to destroy Hamas militarily and their governing capabilities, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to this country. So we're focused on those war aims, and nothing that's happened in the political arena, of which I don't normally comment on, will affect that. Next question, please.
Last question from Joel Polak. Should the U.S. investigate the Palestine Chronicle after one of its contributors, Abdallah al-Jamal, held Israeli hostages while reporting from Gaza for the organization?
Thank you very much for that question, Joel. Yes, I have seen reports that the terrorist, which was holding three of our hostages in his home with his family, is an employee of not only a contributor to Al Jazeera, which gives a lie to all these accusations we've faced over the last 8 months of us targeting journalists. Many of these journalists have split personalities. They work for Hamas. They are Hamas supporters. They are Hamas activists, but they also report in foreign news media. And this terrorist, in particular, being an employee of a 501c3 US registered organization, which should have charitable status, is once again an example of Hamas really casting aside any of the laws of decency, or mixing terrorism with a charitable organization. Yes, of course, the US authorities should investigate this, and if it's found to be true, then appropriate measures should be taken. These are terrorist organizations. The blinkers should come off many in the international community that there is a separation between anything which happens in Gaza, whether a journalistic or pseudo aid agencies. Almost everything which happens in Gaza is under Hamas control. That's what an Islamo-fascist type terrorist organization does. They control almost every aspect of Gazan society. And of course, many of these pseudo-journalists are not journalists at all. They're hiding behind their press vests. They're hiding behind the notion of journalists. Many in the outside world constantly chastise this country for attacking journalists. We've often produced the proof that these journalists are actually terrorist operatives, and this is a prime example. An Hamas operative holding our hostages while appearing on the Al Jazeera website. We've said very often, and also writing for the Palestine Chronicle, we said very often that these organizations are working hand in hand. We've given you evidence of that, and we've also given evidence of organizations like UNRWA, who also work hand in hand with Hamas. This must stop. People must stop being naive in the outside world. We're on the front line of this terrorism. We understand it more than anyone. And this country, it's a democracy, it's a free country with a free press, the freest press in hundreds of miles in any direction. We know what we're talking about when we make these accusations, and casting doubt on Israel's assertions really can no longer be an excuse. So many of these journalists are unfortunately also working for terrorist organizations. We saw that on October the 7th. We saw the remarkably quick timing of many photojournalists who were there at 6:30 when the borders of Israel were breached, the photographs that they took, also the photographs which many journalists have in open embrace with Sinwar, the Hamas leader. These are not impartial observers. They are Hamas operatives, and the international community must realize them for what they are. Any other questions?
Question from Benjamin Brown, CNN. You just said that hostages were, quote, put to work, end quote, while in Gaza. Could you elaborate on this?
Thank you, Benjamin, for that question, including the last 4 hostages and which were released on Saturday, and also hostages which have been released from November, have told us that they have been essentially used as slaves in Gazan households, and that has been backed up by the evidence which they have given, and that evidence is coming out more and more. You know, this is a very delicate time for hostages who have just been released. I recently heard one of the leading doctors at Sheba Hospital who have been dealing with these rescued hostages, and after that initial period of euphoria, when these hostages are reunited with their families, I think which of us will have not shed a tear to see those images of those hostages being reunited with their families after 8 long months. These hostages talk of the fact that they are used as slaves, forced to recite Quranic verses and read Quranic lessons. They are brainwashed while in captivity, telling them that Israel has forgotten about them, that Israel is there is no more Israel. Israel's been defeated. That their family don't care about them, these are the sorts of testimony which the poor hostages who've been rescued have shared with us, together with terrible occasions of rape. I happened to hear the live testimony of a woman that was released from captivity, and she talked about the rape at the hands of her captors, which is unbearable, which is the reason why we are working so hard to bring our people home. There is every moment of every day we're looking for ways, innovative ways, both through negotiations and through sustained military pressure, to bring our people home. I say to you again, and this message should be transferred to Hamas, this war could end now, this afternoon, if Hamas lay down their arms and release our hostages. Any other questions?
Final question from Jim Williams from Zenger International News Service, Washington, D.C. Following Gantz's departure, will the Prime Minister appoint a successor to his position on the War Council or proceed without filling the vacancy?
Thank you for that question, Jim. The Prime Minister will make clear the changes in the composition of the War Cabinet shortly, as the situation has demanded. I will remind you that this is a relatively stable government with 664 mandates in the 120 seat Knesset. The government is stable and is purposely it is determined to fulfill its 3 missions in dealing with this war of destroying Hamas, of bringing back our hostages, and of course ensuring that Gaza never again poses a threat to this country. And for those objectives, there is practically wall-to-wall support for those objectives here in Israel. So no matter what happens politically, the country is behind. The overwhelming majority of the country is behind those objectives, and we are taking them forward. The reason we are taking them forward is because we understand very well that this is a war for our very existence. We realize that, we understand that. Hamas, given the opportunity, will do it again. Whether there are wishful thinkers out there that think they are deterred or no longer have the strength, they will do everything in their power to get that strength, but we won't let them. Any idea, any notion that there will be a ceasefire without, or an end to this war without Hamas no longer being in control, is fanciful. We're going to destroy this terrorist organization, and we're going to bring peace back to this region. Any other questions?
Question from Dr. Abby Korb. You mentioned hearing from the doctors. The question is, how is the overall health of the recently rescued hostages?
Thank you for that question, Abby. I've seen the reports and the broadcasts of the doctors at Sheba Hospital that are now becoming somewhat of an expert in dealing with these poor hostages that have been rescued. They, in their initial reports, have shown that there is malnutrition amongst these poor hostages that have been rescued. There are nutritional deficits which they've suffered from, not always recognizable from looking at them, but the doctors have made this diagnosis that there is malnutrition and nutritional deficits in their makeup. You will also have seen that many of them are pale, not having any sunlight and being locked inside, and having very occasional opportunities to go into the sunlight. So, this is 8 months of torture which these poor hostages have been through. This time, as in November, there was a Hamas PR exercise to try and show hostages smiling as they went into those Red Cross minibuses to be brought back to Israel. We know that the hostages were very often drugged and given medication to give them put smiles on their faces, and we know they were told to smile, but many of them, of course, complied. What else could they do with a masked Hamas gunman with an AK-47 in their hands, threatening them? Make no mistake, this is a wicked humanitarian crime which has been committed against these poor people. They will need time to recover. The doctors also spoke about this initial time of euphoria, of meeting their family and being reunited with their friends, but also after that, unfortunately, the psychological damage which has been done to these poor people takes time to get over. And all of their hostages, whether they were released in November or the ones which we miraculously, thank God, through our phenomenally brave armed forces, our innovative armed forces, that managed to do phenomenal work. Again, within the same vein as the Entebbe rescue. The Entebbe rescue, of course, which mimicked one of Idi Amin's stretch Mercedes limousines and took it on the plane and flew it onto the runway at Entebbe. Similar things were done by our armed forces, our tremendously brave and innovative armed forces. We are all here in Israel so proud of what they have achieved. It has lifted this nation, but we know that this fight isn't over. We are making excellent progress. We're defeating these Hamas battalions, and we will bring these people home. But there's still work to do, but we are making excellent progress. We feel that the end is within sight. Any other questions?
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, so the next briefing will be tomorrow, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next briefing. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do stay safe, and bye-bye.